Oh, hi. You're up here already. Well, I just wanted to show you the Starlink dish, and it's right over here. If you haven't watched my channel before, my name is Joe, and this is Off-Grid Solitude. And today I wanted to talk about installing Starlink internet in an off-grid setting. Well, since we're already up here, let me start off by showing you the dish portion. As you can see, it's all pretty self-contained. The top part of the dish clips into the stand. There's one 50-foot cable coming out of it. The cable seems to be permanently connecting. If there's a way to detach it, I don't know about it. I didn't want to mess around with it too much. The Starlink hardware is very expensive. I think I'd have a stroke if I broke it. I attached the base to the roof with just 4 sheet metal screws, and it's very stable. I've had multiple days with 50-mile-per-hour gusts, and there's been no problem. It hasn't even wiggled. So why did I get Starlink? Why get internet at all living out here off the grid? But I think we can all agree internet is pretty important. There are some things that you can't do offline, or it's very difficult. I use it for things like paying bills and online shopping and the occasional movie or two. I've had Starlink for about 2 months now, and I just wanted to talk about why I got it and the pros and cons of it, and if I would recommend it or not. For the first year or so, I was just using my smartphone, one of the mobile data plans. At first I had Boost Mobile, and then I switched over to Mint, which is one of those prepaid plans. And through the past year, I've had anywhere between 35 and 50 gigabytes of data. For those who aren't too familiar with the way this internet stuff works, there's two things. There's speed and there's amount of data. And unfortunately, they all use pretty similar terminology, so it can get a little confusing from time to time. The speeds I was getting on my phone were fine. I was getting 4G or 5G internet, which is broadband type speeds. There's a couple cell towers around, about 4 or 5 miles away, and so I get pretty good service. But the biggest problem was I kept running out of data. I was fine for a while when I was just, surfing the internet and watching the occasional video. But when I started doing this YouTube stuff, I ran out of data really fast. These high definition videos are surprisingly large files. So I had two choices living out here off grid. I could either buy a bigger data plan with my mobile carrier, or I could look into satellite internet. Starlink is the most expensive of all the options, but not by much. The monthly service fees are all about the same, roughly about $100 a month. Starlink has a shorter latency than all the other satellite carriers, and that's just the delay between when the signal leaves your dish and reaches the satellite and back again. But I think the biggest factor in my decision was all the other satellite carriers have data caps, and they're honestly kind of small. Now, Starlink at the moment doesn't have any data caps, and if they do institute them, I think they're going to be pretty generous. So I chose Starlink. I didn't see the point in running into the same problem in a couple months or a year down the line. Starlink installation was very easy. It was the easiest of any ISP I've ever had. You've got two pieces. You've got the dish and you've got the router. You screw the dish to the roof, as you saw. You plug the cable into the router, plug the router into an electrical outlet, and that's it. The one warning Starlink gives is about obstructions. I guess you can't have any trees or anything in the way. But as you can see here in the desert, I don't have any obstructions at all. I just open sky. I don't even have any clouds. There's an app you download and install on your phone. Once you plug in the router, you turn on the app, and it instantly recognized me, knew all about me. It set itself up, it adjusted itself. All I had to do was pick a Wi-Fi username and password. That's it. The whole system uses less than 20 watts of electricity when it's not actively working, in standby mode. And when it is working, it only uses about 80 watts of electricity. So it's very low power. And since all you need to do is give it a power source, you could connect an inverter to a battery and set this up in the middle of the field if you wanted. Although I don't recommend it. The satellite dish was very expensive. I will say the one problem I ran into was the plug. It's an L-shaped plug that connects the dish to the router. And because it's L-shaped, it doesn't fit through a hole very nicely. So I had to drill a pretty large hole in my wall to get this through. And I didn't want to cut the cable or do anything crazy with it because, as I said, it was very expensive. It's really not that big of a deal. I can just patch the hole, no problem. It's just something to be aware of. How has the performance been with Starlink? Well, pretty good. Download speeds vary. I've seen as low as 75 megabits per second on a bad day and 180 megabits per second on a good day. I'm not doing a speed test all the time, but I've never really noticed it to be slow, so I'm pretty satisfied. Upload speeds are usually just under about 20 megabits per second. I remember having broadband in the city, and I remember those upload speeds being noticeably faster than what I have now. But it's faster than my phone, so I'm happy. As for outages and dropped service and stuff like that, it's also pretty good. It's better than my mobile phone. I have pretty good service out here, but it's very windy. And with my mobile service, when the wind blows where the tower is, I lose connection. It'll drop a call, I'll lose data service, and usually it doesn't come back by itself. I have to pop into airplane mode and pop back out again, reset my IP address. With Starlink, I haven't had to reset my connection yet in about 2 months. It is a little glitchy on very windy days. Also, very heavy rain will hurt the service. A light drizzle is fine, but that's really to be expected for satellite internet. All in all, I'm pretty satisfied. I'm not looking for miracles. I am off grid here, so I'll take what I can get. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you found this video useful. And thank you for all your likes, comments, and subscribes. And I'll see you in the next video.